a weight, a quiet intensity that fills a space the moment they enter it. Some people feel drawn closer without knowing why. Others feel uneasy, as if something inside them has been gently disturbed. This presence isn't chosen. It isn't learned. And it certainly isn't something they can turn on and off. It exists whether they want it to or not. This kind of power doesn't live on the surface. You won't always see it in a smile or hear it in a voice. It lives deeper, in the way they affect people without trying, in the way conversations shift when they're present, in the way others suddenly reveal things they didn't plan to say. These women don't demand attention, yet attention finds them anyway. And that alone tells you this isn't about performance. It's about energy. It's about something moving beneath awareness, something ancient and instinctive that people respond to before logic gets a vote. People often misunderstand this. They assume power must be loud or dramatic. They think influence requires force or persuasion, but the most powerful things rarely shout. Gravity doesn't announce itself, yet everything responds to it. And some women carry that same kind of pull. They don't need to explain who they are. They don't need to convince anyone. Their presence does the work for them. When someone carries strong inner depth, others feel it immediately. They begin to attach meaning to her without realizing it. They project their hopes, their longings, their fears. To one person, she seems comforting and wise. To another, intimidating and unreachable. To someone else, she feels like a mirror, reflecting parts of themselves they've been avoiding. None of this is intentional on her part, and that's what makes it complicated. She becomes more than herself in the eyes of others. She becomes a symbol. And symbols are powerful, but they are rarely treated gently. This is why women with this kind of presence are often both admired and misunderstood. People feel something around them, but can't name it, so they fill in the blanks. They assume motives. They imagine strength where there may be exhaustion. They see mystery where there may simply be depth. And because this attention arrives uninvited, it can feel isolating. When people don't see you as a person, connection becomes strangely difficult, even when you're surrounded by others. What looks like confidence from the outside can feel like pressure on the inside. What looks like calm can hide constant awareness. Because carrying this presence means constantly being felt, even when you want to disappear into the background. It means being remembered after brief encounters. It means being talked about often inaccurately. And it means learning early that attention doesn't always come with understanding. And yet, this silent gravity is only the first sign. Because alongside it lies a deep contradiction, one that shapes how these women move through the world. They are often deeply connected to people. Friends find them easily. Strangers open up to them quickly. Lovers feel seen in ways they haven't felt before. People seek them out for advice, comfort, clarity. There's a sense that being near them brings something into focus. And in many ways, it does. These women tend to notice what others miss. They read tone, silence, and subtle shifts with ease. They understand emotions before they're spoken. They sense when something is off, even if everything looks fine on the surface. And yet, beneath all of this connection, there is often a profound sense of being alone. Not lonely in the simple sense of lacking company, but alone in a deeper way. Alone in how they experience the world. Alone in how much they see. Because seeing clearly can separate you from those who prefer not to look. When you understand people deeply, you also understand how rarely they understand themselves. And that gap can be isolating. These women often feel as if they live slightly apart, even while being involved. They can sit in a room full of people and still feel inwardly distant. not because they judge others, but because their inner world is rich, complex, and constantly active. They process life deeply, and depth doesn't always find an easy match. Surface level connection can feel unsatisfying. Small talk can feel draining, and pretending not to notice things can feel dishonest. So they learn to move between worlds, outwardly present, inwardly private, available yet guarded, warm yet selective. This balance isn't calculated. It's learned through experience, through realizing that not everyone who wants access deserves it, through understanding that their energy affects others and that they must protect it if they want to remain whole. Another sign appears in how these women relate to transformation. Change doesn't frighten them in the same way it frightens others. Lost endings and uncertainty still hurt, but they don't destroy them. Instead, these experiences seem to shape them. There is a pattern of shedding old versions of themselves, of outgrowing environments, relationships, and identities. They don't cling to what no longer fits, even when letting go is painful. This can look unstable from the outside. People may say they change too much, that they are hard to pin down. But what's really happening is growth. These women feel when something has run its course. They sense when staying would mean shrinking, and so they move forward even without guarantees, even without applause. This willingness to transform gives them a quiet resilience. They trust that they can survive endings. They know that breaking down doesn't mean breaking apart. And because of this, they often become guides for others during times of transition. Not because they have all the answers, but because they aren't afraid of the questions. There is also a strong relationship with truth. Not the polished version, not the socially acceptable one, but the uncomfortable kind. These women have a low tolerance for falsehood, especially in themselves. They feel when they are out of alignment, and that feeling doesn't let them rest. They cannot easily live a life that contradicts their inner values. Even when compromise would make things easier, something inside resists. This inner honesty can make life harder in the short term. It can lead to difficult conversations. It can end relationships that look good on paper. It can push them away from paths that promise security but feel empty. But over time, it builds something rare: integrity. A sense of self that doesn't fracture under pressure. A life that, while not perfect, feels real. Because of this, people often trust them instinctively. They may not know why, but they feel that this woman won't pretend, that she won't flatter without meaning it, that her words carry weight because they come from alignment, not strategy. Another sign shows up in how these women deal with pain. They don't run from it, but they don't romanticize it either. Pain is something to be understood, not performed. When they are hurt, they go inward. They reflect. They ask hard questions. They look for meaning, not as an excuse, but as a way to integrate the experience rather than be consumed by it. This process can make them seem distant during difficult times. They may withdraw to process what they're feeling. But when they return, they often do so with clarity, with insight, with a deeper understanding of themselves and others. This is why their advice carries weight. It isn't theoretical, it's lived. These women also have a complicated relationship with power itself. They sense it in themselves, even if they don't name it. And because they sense it, they are cautious with it. They know how easily influence can slip into control, how being needed can turn into being drained, how being admired can become being consumed. So they learn boundaries, often the hard way. They learn to say no without apology. They learn to step back when others try to pull too much from them. This can make them seem cold to those who benefited from their openness without respecting it. But boundaries are not cruelty. They are self-respect in action. And then there is the final sign, the one that carries the most risk. These women have a deep connection to their inner world. Their intuition is strong. Their imagination is vivid. Their inner life can be richer than their outer one. This gives them creativity, insight, and vision. But it also carries danger if left unchecked. Because when the inner world becomes too dominant, it can pull them away from reality. They may begin to live more in meaning than in practicality, more in potential than in presence. If they lose grounding, their sensitivity can turn into overwhelm. Their insight can turn into overthinking. Their depth can turn into isolation. This is the edge they walk. The same inner strength that gives them power can also consume them if they don't stay aware. If they believe they must carry everything alone, if they forget to rest, if they forget that being human matters as much as being deep. Balance is not optional for them. It is survival. When these women stay connected to their bodies, their relationships, and the present moment, their power becomes stabilizing rather than destructive. They become forces for clarity, healing, and growth, not by saving others, but by being fully themselves, grounded, aware, alive. And that is the truth most people miss. This power was never meant to set them apart from humanity. It was meant to anchor them more deeply within it. They can see straight through the masks people wear. Not in a dramatic way, not by trying. They simply notice what others miss. The quiet pain behind a smile. The insecurity hiding behind confidence. The longing someone never says out loud. And when people sense that they are being seen this deeply, it can feel uncomfortable, exposing, even unsettling. People admire these women, but they often do not know how to come close to them while staying honest. So these women live in a strange middle place, surrounded by people, yet rarely fully understood. It feels like standing on a narrow bridge, 1 foot in the world, 1 foot alone. And that loneliness is not a flaw. It is not a weakness. It is where their real strength is formed. Because in those quiet spaces, they spend time with their inner world, with their dreams, with images, feelings, and ideas that most people never stop long enough to hear. But let's be honest, this way of being is not easy. Many women with deep inner power feel lonely even in relationships because their depth is rarely met at the same level. And yet, this very solitude sharpens something powerful inside them, their inner sense. Which brings us to the next sign. One that feels almost magical, but also carries real risk. There's a gift that looks invisible from the outside but shapes everything. A deep inner knowing, not based on facts, not based on logic, just knowing. For women with strong inner power, intuition is not a momentary feeling. It is not a guess. It flows through everything they do. They sense when something is off before words are spoken. They can feel dishonesty without evidence. They notice grief that has never been shared as if it were their own. To others, this can feel strange, even frightening. To them, it feels normal, as natural as breathing. But this gift comes at a price. Intuition often reveals truths people would rather ignore. And when a woman speaks those truths, she risks being pushed away, laughed at, or misunderstood. History is full of women who were punished for seeing too clearly, for noticing too much, for speaking too soon. This kind of awareness can also be painful for the woman herself. To constantly sense hidden intentions, quiet betrayals, or approaching trouble is exhausting. It is like moving through life with your eyes wide open while others walk comfortably half asleep. And this leads us to another sign, one that explains why these women are often both admired and disliked at the same time. When someone carries a strong inner light, they also stir what is hidden in others. The stronger the presence, the stronger the reaction. Some people are drawn in looking for warmth or truth. Others feel threatened and want to pull it down. Women like this naturally act as mirrors. They don't just reflect kindness or beauty. They reflect everything, including fear, jealousy, and unresolved pain in the people around them. A woman may step into someone's life without any intention to challenge them, and yet old emotions rise to the surface. Admiration for some, resistance for others. This is why such women are rarely neutral figures. They are loved deeply, resented strongly, and almost never ignored. When people speak badly about them without clear reason, it is rarely about the woman herself. It is about what she has awakened inside them. And yet, this same quality is what makes these women powerful guides and healers. Because real growth only happens when we face what we have been avoiding. And often, it is the presence of a woman like this that quietly forces that moment of truth. But carrying this role is tiring. It drains energy. It makes relationships feel heavy and life feel intense. And it prepares them for the next unseen sign, the one that explains why their presence feels almost unreal to others. There is a constant movement inside them, a quiet balance between light and darkness. They understand that a human being is never just one thing. Strength lies beside softness. Hope exists alongside pain. Courage walks with fear. Women with deep inner power carry all of this at once. And people can feel it the moment they enter a room. It can feel magnetic and at the same time unsettling. They are not innocent souls pretending darkness does not exist. They know it well. They have walked through heartbreak. They have faced betrayal. They have lived through loss. They have been broken apart and slowly put themselves back together. This is why their eyes often hold both kindness and intensity. Why their presence can feel comforting, yet slightly dangerous. Not because they will harm you, but because they are real. They are whole, not because they are flawless, but because they have stopped running from their flaws. They do not hide their scars. They do not pretend to be untouched. They turn pain into understanding and wounds into wisdom. People sense this without being told. And that is why standing near them feels different. You do not feel judged, but you do feel noticed. Not just for how you look or what you say, but for who you are underneath. And yet living this balance is not easy. It takes courage to face both sides of yourself. It requires a strong inner voice, one that refuses to be pushed down or ignored. This leads us to another unseen sign. Inside these women is a voice that does not bend easily. It does not bow to fear, pressure, or the need to fit in. It speaks quietly but clearly. It guides them even when the path feels lonely. It is louder than social expectations, louder than family opinions, louder than the comfort of staying where they do not belong. This voice tells them to leave relationships that slowly suffocate them, even when walking away hurts deeply. It tells them to choose honesty over approval, even when it costs them acceptance. It pushes them to create, to speak, to live truthfully, even when the world responds with criticism or misunderstanding. Because of this, they are often labeled as stubborn, rebellious, or difficult. But they are not trying to be difficult. They are trying to stay true to themselves. Ignoring this inner voice is dangerous for them.